Welcome everyone to my Mythic Raszageth Arms Warrior Commentary Guide. My name is Shirley, and grab some popcorn because today this one's going to be pretty long, as most end bosses tend to be. We are playing the standard single target build, with one caveat being that you really want to have Wrecking Throw for this boss, and that's for all the absorption shields and bonus damage phases that will be going on throughout the fight here. But anyway, on pull, we're going to go ahead and charge the boss, use our cooldowns, and spend as much rage during our first Bloodlust window, because we get 2 during this fight, as we possibly can. And then we're going to be spreading out around the boss for our spark positions. Mine happens to be up front here by the tanks on my left, and I'm having a monk stack with me every time, and he's going to use Ring of Peace to bail my ass out and break all the sparks. Because otherwise, Arms is going to have to kind of play some weird talents to pick up Intimidating Shout and whatnot just to break those, because all we have in my current build for this is Pummel. It's not a huge deal if you don't want to have, you know, the other CCs or whatever, but having a monk is great, so utilize it if you can. But anyway, we're going to move around the boss here, trying to get back behind it as much as we possibly can, because unfortunately my spark position being in front, you do get parried quite a bit by the bird. But we're going to be rotating around for our first Hurricane win here, and go ahead and throwing my Colossus Smash back again, even though it's during this win phase, because it's not too bad at the beginning. And during each of these Hurricane wins, I'm going to be trying to double charge the boss for Rage, obviously, and then leaping back for the third bit to get back into my Spark position as quickly as possible, because not every class can make it all the way to the front of the boss like that, so Warrior is good for that positioning. And we're going to be rotating around here, back behind, and every time those bombs go off is a good time to throw up a Spell Reflect too, just to help mitigate some of that damage. We get our second avatar coming around here, burning off as much rage, throwing our Thunderous Roar there. Had a little bit of a lag spike there, trying to heroic leap back on that third one, but we're going to be coming back up in front of the boss here, and it's easy to get kind of distracted on the positioning or which number of wins it is, so always cheating towards your spot is safer rather than, you know, being caught out in the wrong position. Avoiding the breath here. Luckily, the cone itself is really small, so it's not that big of a deal. You can be pretty close to it. Getting behind the boss for our next Hurricane win, and this is where our Evoker's going to use their Zephyr thing, I think it's called, that gives you a free charge or heroic leap. I'm still going to be using 2 charges and just the 1 heroic leap myself, just for the free rage, just to, you know, keep anger management rolling as much as we possibly can. Speaking of anger management rolling, anytime during Bloodlust, especially at the start of a fight like this, you can fit in your 2 Ignore Pains in your Colossus Smash window, you know, pretty easily. But during Bloodlust, you can actually fit in 2 Whirlwinds if your, you know, procs line up and everything and you get enough rage for it. But anyway, we're going into our first intermission here, and I'm going to be keep hitting the bird as much as I possibly can to try and get up as many fatality stacks on the boss, as well as refresh the duration. So going into our first intermission, I'm at 23, which is actually pretty bad. If, you know, it was a lucky pull, you'd have over 30. You know, pretty averagely around 30 is what I try to shoot for, so that was unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then we're going to go ahead and burn all of our cooldowns going in on this first Ruiner here, but saving our Dragon Roar and immediately throwing it at, not Dragon Roar, the other Thunderous Roar, my bad, on all the little adds as soon as they spawn, just to burn them down quickly. And everybody's going to have cooldowns running on that one, so that first shield that we have to break isn't a super big deal. That's why it's fine throwing Colossus Smash just on the big Surging Ruiner. However, on the second set here, the Herald, I'm definitely going to be burning my Colossus Smash on, because everybody's kind of used everything. So this is the priority one. We won't have Wrecking Throw for this one, but I do have it for the third one, so we're going to be burning it there. You could, you know, swap that around depending on your raid comp's damage, you know, how it all feels out. You could swap around, but this way, I like to have it for the first and the third one here, rather than that, you know, the second one, so you get 2 uses out of it. So once again, we're going to be Wrecking Throw with Colossus Smash up on that Herald and breaking that shield as much as, or as fast as possible, which is important during the breath strafes, which you could see off to the right there. We're going to be, you know, avoiding those, and a lot of people, you know, can't do optimal damage while they're moving if they're ranged, for example, so, you know, having that available for that third one is nice during any of those breaths. And we're going to be moving into Phase 2 now. We're just waiting on the bird to land. Yeah, I'm going to keep calling it a bird. And spreading out around the boss here. in our rough locations for sparks, etc. You always kind of want to gravitate towards the same spot. And as soon as the bird lands, I'm going to go ahead and pop everything, all my cooldowns, and immediately throw Thunderous Roar with my cooldowns rather than after my Colossus Smash window. And that's because I want the cooldown to be lined up for the second Storm Shield. So we're going to go ahead, and that's just, you know, to line up cooldowns later. Everything fits a bit better. And we still have, you know, Colossus Smash going into this first one. Most people are using their cooldown, so it's not as big of a deal. So we're going to go ahead and use our our Wrecking Throw during our Colossus Smash, of course, during that window there, spreading out and just waiting, gravitating towards the wings, obviously moving in when you get inverted. And then my spot here when we're kind of spreading out around the boss is unfortunately underneath the wing, which can be a little jarring for, you know, visual aid, especially if there's swirlies on the ground below you. You really got to rotate your camera around if you're in a position like that so you're not getting hit by lightning. And as the first pushback comes out, we're going to have our Heroic Leap up for pretty much all of those, except for one during this phase, so it's safe to use it, plus your Spell Reflect during each of those, just to help mitigate some of that damage. And then coming back in here, we're going to be spreading to our Spark positions, as you just saw, and the next Tempest Wing comes out. I got, once again, Reflect and Heroic Leap back up for that. And we're just going to be burning as much Rage here to reset our cooldowns, and as long as you're on the ball with that, you'll be able to fit in that extra Colossus Smash there, so you'll have it back up for this thing. We're going to be linking up with our buddy here next to us as soon as possible, moving over to the wing. And this is where we would throw Thunderous Roar immediately inside the cooldown window so that Dot's getting the full benefit of the damage buff during the shield phase, as well as our Wrecking Throw, of course. And then immediately after, we're going to be stacking up around the foot here is my Spark position, up as close as we possibly can. And obviously, you know, you want to make room if somebody's out of position slightly or whatever, but, you know, it's usually not a big deal for us. And I'm going to be stacking on our monk buddy here, Zayden, so he can drop his Ring of Peace and clip as many people with that as he can to break those, which is always nice. And I'm, you know, obviously going to be looking out for any stragglers and hit it with a pummel if you have to. And immediately after, we're going to rotate around to the back side of the boss here for the big circles that come out. Luckily, we didn't have any in melee that time, so we don't, you know, need to overreact or anything. And we have a Warlock Gateway down there for just that reason. This is the Tempest Wing that we don't have heroically back up. It only happens this one time. This is where I'm going to be using my Rallying Cry and just helping everybody out because it's kind of a poor overlap for, you know, the healers and a lot of other things going on. As we move back into our next Spark position, and we're just burning off, so there's a couple here, we can throw a pummel there. And we have to immediately spread out and do those pretty quickly because this is the final Storm Shield. I get inverted here, so we're moving back out. And this one, I'm not going to be, even as tempting as it might be, you get Avatar and Thunderous Roar back up at the tail end of this. We're not going to be using them, just our Colossus Smash going into the burn phase and our Wrecking Throw. We're going to be saving our major cooldowns for the intermission here. But until the next little Storm Ad spawn, I'm going to be jumping up and down, hitting this thing with as many Mortal Strikes as possible to get those Fatality stacks up. I'm shooting for roughly 60 around this point, so we're still a little bit behind on that, but it is what it is. And as soon as the Colossal Storm Fiend spawns, this is where we're gonna burn all of our big cooldowns on it and spending Rage, except for Thunderous Roar. I'm going to be saving Thunderous Roar for the intermission phase thing when all the little ads spawn here. Not throwing it right away. We're going to be spending Rage, and I'm going to use my Colossus Smash on the big guy again here, and that's just to get the cooldown rolling, and spending Rage during the little ad bit here, so, you know, we still get a Test of Might buff out of this, even though we're not hitting the big guy. And we're going to move back after we kill all the little ads to our original position on the close side to platform 1 here, so any of the breaths that come through, you know, we can move through the boss. And then as the ads teleport and swap sides, we're not going to be hitting those other little ones. It's just finishing off this guy, which is great for arms to sit here because you can execute it down. And luckily our DPS was pretty even this time around, so we didn't have to hold or wait for anything like what might occur occasionally. Then I'm just going to move off to the edge of the platform here to make sure that breath is going to be nowhere near, and charging back in for a bit of free Rage and burning down this last Colossal Storm Fiend ad. And this is also where Colossus Smash comes right back up. Don't be tempted to hit it again like you normally would just to keep it rolling. We're going to be saving it for phase 3. And once again, you've got a little bit of a window here that you can Mortal Strike and refresh that Fatality stack, which is what I'm going to be doing. But not getting too greedy with it. Moving back to the side. Pop your Gammon for the execute phase because it's very important. Then we're going to be spreading out. I'm trying to get to roughly my P2 positioning here. And this is where we're going to burn our second Bloodlust and our third combat potion and just go to town. However, I'm holding my potion and my cooldowns until we hit 35%, so I can burn everything during the execute phase and not waste that initial test of might buff. Speaking of which, during this phase, I'm just going to be spamming as many executes as I possibly can just to reset my Colossus Smash as fast as possible, so we get a nice 8-second window with Test of Might into our next Colossus Smash, you know, for the huge strength bonus off that. And then it's spreading out, and we unfortunately get gripped through the breath and dip pretty low there, but that's where the emergency health stones are nice. And we're just spreading out with those charges. And the first one's not super spooky, so people can run out pretty far. As the fight goes on, though, they get more and more scary as people don't want to run into the storm and take that dot. And at this point, this one, it's kind of a back and forth phase where you stack up under the boss for half of these, and then the other half you're just kind of moving it as far away as possible. That's for these Tempest Wings. And we always want to spread out because it does the AoE pulse. I should have Heroic Leap that one. I don't know why I didn't there. But ideally we're going to be Heroic Leaping and, you know, throwing up a Spell Reflect for each of those. And then otherwise, you know, we're burning a bunch of rage during our Colossus Smash windows here during execute. And I'm throwing up Rends by itself before each of my Colossus Smash windows, trying to keep it as refreshed as possible. It's not a super big deal if it falls off, but, you know, ideally you want to be maintaining it still. We're going to use our second set of cooldowns here. Avatar comes back up as we leap out away from those charges. We do have a Warlock Gate set up for a little bit later, or ideally that's what we're going to be doing later. It doesn't always go according to plan, though. But we're throwing our Thunderous Roar here at the end of our windows during our execute phase. We're not, you know, burning at the beginning just because we can spend a lot of rage. Generally, I'm not going to be ignore painting during execute phase because you're going to be dumping off as much, you know, rage quickly enough with execute itself that it's not necessary. But if you get lucky with some, you know, Wind Fury procs or something, then, you know, don't be afraid to press ignore pain if you're literally rage capping, even during execute phase, it's fine. We're going to leap back in for that next pushback, dodging the breath here, and this is where things can kind of get spooky towards the end of the fight. It's a good time during this Tempest Wing to, like, throw your Rallying Cry if it's back up or if it's not a sign for something else. We charge back in here, get a little bit of free rage, and this is where we're going to stack up in front where we're supposed to have a Warlock Gate on this marker, but we didn't have one, so it's just running out, you know, getting away from these markers. And at this point, anybody else that gets something like that, it's like a, you know, sacrifice yourself. I forgot to mention during this whole phase, we're watching out for tornadoes that come in and soaking those. Luckily, my team had it pretty well handled, so I didn't have to worry about it too much. And down goes Raszageth, finally on Mythic. If you guys have any extra questions for me, right as we get our last avatar back at the killing blow, feel free to leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll have more content soon, TM, hopefully more frequently. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Playing defense. Just focus. Dodge this breath, focus, and play defense.
Let's
Very
go!
Go!
Baby! Where's our loot? Where's our loot?